Being an ally is something that's come to the fore over the last few years, whether or not it's for women, LGBTQ or BAME networks, and generally just for underrepresented groups. So one of the conversations I often have with male colleagues is around how they can more effectively do this. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the 7 different roles you can take up to be a really supportive ally and hopefully be a better manager and leader. An ally is just someone who helps and supports others, and I've been really lucky in my career to have some really excellent male allies who've helped me develop my career, my confidence, and generally coach me through different areas. So I know the power of a good ally, and I know sometimes it's easier to say you're an ally than to actually be it. So we're going to talk through some of the concrete steps that you can take to be a really effective ally. The first role you can take is as sponsor, and that's someone who vocally supports the work of colleagues and raises their profile, perhaps in rooms where they're not. So that might be behind closed doors when you're talking about performance reviews or succession planning, career paths, making sure that you're championing individuals who perhaps might not be naturally at the fore, and making sure that you're talking about their strengths, what they bring to the team, and rewarding their successes. The other thing you can do is recommend people for stretch assignments or encourage people who perhaps aren't the most confident to apply themselves for secondments, different projects, that really get them outside of their comfort zone and potentially raise their profile. And the final thing you can do is to share colleagues' goals with influencers in the business. So if you know someone has an aspiration to work in a certain sector or to take on a certain type of role, make sure that you're sharing those goals with others who can make decisions on their behalf. Where this really helped me was a boss who took a real interest in understanding what my career goals were, and encouraging me to take on assignments or special projects which raised my profile in the firm and allow me to develop a new network that I perhaps wouldn't have accessed otherwise. The second way is being a champion. So that's someone who's willing to defer to colleagues and bring on people from more diverse backgrounds into opportunities. In meetings, that can be by directing specific questions or topics to underrepresented groups who are in the room, so referring to people as subject matter experts or proactively bringing them into conversations. You can advocate for people from underrepresented groups to be speakers, panelists, or generally have a voice. So where I've seen this work really effectively is we were designing a conference at work, and we agreed that 50% of the speakers would be from BAME, LGBTQ or female backgrounds, and that allowed us to have a much more diverse panelists and raise the profile for those individuals. Another thing you can do as a champion is recommend others who would be a good fit for opportunities that you're offered. So if you're asked to speak at a conference or attend an opportunity, perhaps find out who else will be there and make an assessment of is that a diverse spectrum. And if it's not, then perhaps you could suggest to the organisers that they broaden the invite list or encourage other speakers. The next way you can help is by being an amplifier, and this is something that I try to actively do in meetings. When someone has a good idea, either in a meeting or another forum, then you can repeat it but also give them credit for it by lending your voice behind it or perhaps add credence, but also you're giving the originator of the idea the credit for it. If you're leading a meeting or you're chairing another forum, then you can always set a code of conduct which allows meetings to be both inclusive and communicative. So a really good example of this is making sure that you set an agenda ahead of time and send papers. Not everyone is comfortable giving an opinion on the fly, and so by giving people time to prepare and perhaps submit questions to you in advance, you give the opportunity to create an inclusive environment that people are comfortable to share their voice. The final thing you can do as an amplifier is invite members of underrepresented groups to the meetings that you're attending or different opportunities. It allows them to see the types of things that you do in your day job, but also gives them exposure which they may not have had. The next role you can take up is as an advocate, who's someone who proactively uses their power and influence to bring in underrepresented groups and increase opportunities for them. You can offer to introduce underrepresented groups to people in your network or opportunities that they may not have otherwise accessed. You can ask someone from an underrepresented group to be a collaborator on a piece of work with you, whether or not that's a written report, an article, a webinar, or something else, just to lend credence to them and give them an opportunity. The final thing you can do is give them credit publicly for their work, and that's something I've really benefited from during my career, is when colleagues have proactively mentioned my name to other key people in the organisation or decision makers so that people can understand my contribution to a project. The next role you can take up is as a scholar, and that is someone who seeks to learn and understand as much as they can about others' experiences and the challenges that they may face. And you can do that either through, there's a ton of stuff on the internet, there's videos you can watch, there's lots of experiences, but you can also seek people in your own organisation and have conversations with them about the challenges they face. Most organisations these days will have networks such as for women, BAME, LGBTQ, and joining those networks and understanding some of those challenges, pressures, and what you can do to help can be a really positive thing. The next role, which is in some ways the most difficult, is as an upstander. And this is basically the opposite of a bystander. So it's someone who proactively stands up and challenges things that they see that aren't in line with values. This means always speaking up if you see behaviour which is offensive, degrading, or challenging to others. Sometimes it's hard to understand if it's just banter or kind of off-the-cuff comments, but making sure that you set a line about what's professional and acceptable behaviour in the workplace. In meetings, especially if you're leading that meeting, it's important that you shut down off-topic conversations or questions which might be alienating to some people in the room. I've seen this done really well at work, where we perhaps have had a sub-conversation going on about something which is quite an exclusive experience, and that's been shut down so that the meeting feels more inclusive for everyone. Finally, you need to take action if you see someone being bullying or harassed or unacceptable comments in the workplace. As a leader or a manager, it's absolutely your responsibility to do that and to encourage the person who's been doing it to also access the support that they need. The final role you can take is as confidant, and this is a much less public way of supporting as some of the other things I've talked about, but it's about creating a safe space that someone feels comfortable enough to come and share their concerns or their challenges with you. I've benefited from having a confidant that I could share challenging behaviours with and things that I was less comfortable with, and it allowed me to work out successful strategies with them to combat it. And it meant that I didn't have to confront stuff in meetings, but I could work out behind the scenes how to reduce the impact of what was happening and make sure that we got a better outcome for everyone. To be an effective ally, you need to believe others' experiences and try not to be defensive either on behalf of the company you work for or the team, but genuinely listen to what they've got to say and understand where they're coming from. Listen and ask questions about the experience that they've had, so that you can seek to understand what's happened, why it's happened, and also how they feel about it. Some questions you can ask yourself to see if this is perhaps something you need to employ is to understand, when was the last time you walked into a room and everyone looked like you? If you come from an underrepresented group, that doesn't happen very often, and more often than not, you're walking into a room where people look quite different from you and have had quite different experiences. And that can feel quite alienating. So by someone who's acting as an ally and that you know that has got your back, it's a really powerful tool. So I've talked you through some things that perhaps can help you, and none of these are mutually exclusive. You can try any or all of these techniques at different times, and different situations might require different approaches. I've definitely felt the benefit of allies during my career, and it's definitely helped me have the confidence to progress within my firm. So I know how important it is, and I actively try to do this for others. I'd love to hear your experiences below, so leave a comment either if you've benefited from having an ally or you feel that that's something you want to do in the future. I'm Liz, and this is my channel Simplification, where we give you the tips, tricks and hacks to help you navigate your career.